right, Ian, speaking of fandom, we just passed the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I think is the official title of it. Came out 20 years ago in May of 99. And that sort of hit us like just dropping a bomb on us. Dropped a bomb on us. And what are your thoughts about 20 years of looking back at the Phantom Menace?
Looking back at it now, especially now that we're 2 movies into the third Star Wars trilogy, I look back at those prequels and I realize that while I like the idea of them in terms, the story could have been very interesting.
Could have been.
And I think that it really needed better actors to make that happen. I think the story, more or less as it was,
needed better writing.
Well, better writing too.
The script was trash.
But the basic idea for the story was there.
Yeah, there was a story.
I hated the second one.
The second one is regarded as the worst one. Some people have a fond memory of the first one.
Well, that's where I'm getting. Yeah. So I hated the second one. And honestly, I was not that impressed with the third one. By that point in time, I was just done dealing with... it's not to be mean, but I just could not handle that Anakin. It was...
Hayden Christensen, I don't think he did horribly. The writing didn't help.
The writing didn't help, obviously. You could see where there were points where they are literally clunking through the dialogue. And yes, I don't think that's all the acting, but it's partially it.
Are you saying love has blinded you? This is from... yes. No, I'm so in love with you. It's like you want to, your head's going to explode.
Right.
Like you can write something better on the spot than that.
However, Phantom Menace, while I have no desire to ever go back and see it again, I have good memories attached to it that keep me from hating it, I think, as much as other people did. I was in high school, and I was a fucking mall rat, and we were hanging out at the mall.
Woo,
and
mall rats.
It was launch day. It was like the release day for the movie, and we hadn't heard anything about it. Our friends and I wanted to go, we wanted to see it, but we figured there'd be no tickets. Well, it was a giant, at that point in time, it was like a 20-screen theater in the mall. Mm-hmm. And when we walked by, I just stupidly was like, hey, any tickets for Phantom Menace? And he's like, oh, yeah, plenty. So we were just like, oh. So we bought tickets and we went and saw a showing. I remember leaving the movie not particularly happy with it or excited about it. But I think just because it was high school and it was something to do, it was a fine way to pass the afternoon. And as a person who likes Star Wars but isn't a crazy huge fan, it's hard for me to be too disappointed, or at least I thought it would be hard for me to be too disappointed, because I'm just kind of in it for the ride. So I did go see Phantom Menace 2 more times after that. It's the only movie I've seen in the theater 3 times. I haven't seen it.
You saw it 3 times?
Yeah. The second 2 times were, or the second time and the third time were on LSD.
Okay, that's why I made it better.
Because it was a lot of fun.
The pod racing scene.
The pod racing scene was intense, and the last lightsaber battle were great. So I was in high school, and I had nothing to do, and I had this acid, and I had friends who, a couple friends who hadn't seen the movie, so I'd just tag along, and I went and saw it 3 times. So, no, I don't hate it. There are things about it that I like. I like like I said, I like the basic concept of the story they set up, and then it never really goes anywhere.
Well, it's a movie that, we'll just say, wasn't needed.
Sure, it wasn't.
I mean, no one asked for. I mean, this is going to be us harping on it. I want to talk about more about the error and things that happened. But
yeah,
in short, to talk about the story, no one asked for a 10-year-old Anakin.
When
they announced these movies, no one imagined they'd start with a little kid Anakin. Which, by the way, the actor, you don't want to get on a kid actor. I'm not blaming the kid actor. I'm blaming the casting of the kid actor. They should. I remember watching the behind the scenes DVD stuff, which is gold, by the way. The behind the scenes stuff that they actually put on their own DVD online, showing people like looking at Lucas like he was crazy and afraid to criticize him at all, which is why the movies are so out of whack, because no one said, no, George, we're going too far with Jar Jar and things like that. I think Spielberg even looked at him like, yeah, George, this sounds good. Looking at like the robot thing, thinking like, wow, what the hell? Because they're friends forever. But on the behind the scenes DVD, they showed the auditions of 3 kids, including the kid Jake Lloyd they picked. The other 2 were far better, but one in particular, he was like, you could see in him in his kid performance how he could be like he was brooding as like an 8-year-old. You're like, ooh, this kid could be Darth Vader. And I was like, that's a kid they should pick, and they don't. Like Lucas was smiling at Jake Lloyd so much. I was like, wow, that was the worst choice you could have made out of the three. Again, not blaming the kid, but you went in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
that's not all I want to talk about though. I want to talk about just the buzz around this. This was like the first movie where there was like a huge fucking like, oh my God, this is coming a year from now buzz that I can remember.
Yeah, same.
Maybe Independence Day, maybe. That was with that teaser originally, but that was more,
Sure.
but that was Super Bowl teaser that year of like 95, I believe, or 96, where it showed the White House getting blown up, and that came out that summer.
Right.
And that was a huge event when we do it. But with Star Wars,
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was really those summers from like 96 to 2000. Those are big years for summer. Like
that's when blockbusters blew up
Yeah,
a lot. Mid 90s, 95, 96, they
Yeah.
started blowing up. You had the awful Godzilla movie, things like that. But I was a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, huge. I mean, I grew up with it. I had the toys when I was a kid. You'd watch them. I think USA Network would show them Christmas. I believe they would show they would show all three.
Yeah.
Usually. So you'd watch them at least then, or if you got like that Showtime for the weekend, which happened like once or twice a year, they could show them. Remember that? You got all excited because we only had basic cable. We didn't have
same. Yeah, so like
middle class Pat. We couldn't
you'd get
afford
a
that.
preview of a station. It would just be you'd suddenly have it added to your TV
For like the
channels
weekend. It was like for like 3 days. So that was really your only chance to see Star Wars, unless you rented them. Back then, we didn't own them. I think my dad might have rented them one time. He rented them, and then we saw them on TV. Like they'd be on TV like twice a year. So there was the toys, but once you got to the early '90s, in the landscape of Star Wars, there was nothing going on.
Nothing.
You had some Dark Horse comics that came out, and then you had buzz from George is thinking about doing the prequels. Then he was like, oh no, he's thinking about doing episode 7, 8, 9. That's what the talk was. They didn't know. They thought about bringing back Hamill in the early '90s. It's only been 10 years, so it was out in the middle of nowhere. And then like the PC games were, I think, a huge part of bringing Star Wars the focus of the zeitgeist back on them through the PC games, X-Wing, TIE Fighter, Dark Forces. The N64 comes out, then you get Shadows of the Empire novel, and then the N64 games I thought were huge for pumping it back up. Oh, what's this, Star Wars? We got new stuff. We got Shadows of the Empire. We got things like that. We got Rogue Squadron. That's coming back, and those were popular games. Shadows of the Empire, those commercials were everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Which, by the way, that's not canon anymore, which pisses me off, all that shit. Well, it's a Disney thing. They didn't even keep Shadows of the Empire or Dark Forces, which I thought was dumb. Anyway, so there was a pump up in like with the younger teenage crowd beforehand with the video game stuff in your 20s, but I was a teenager. The video game stuff, and then they brought out like the THX versions in like 97. Then they had the THX ones were like 95. The last time you can buy these versions. Special editions were 97, came out in the theater. That was a big thing. I saw Empire.
because my brother had the full screen, I think,
THX.
trilogy box set.
And then they brought up the special edition,
Yep.
letterbox ones. So then they put the special edition in theaters, and then oh my god, here we are, Phantom Menace. And then the trailer came out. I believe it was like November. I think it was like November of '98. I was in college, freshman year, and then the trailer came out, the teaser, and then like zoom pod racing. Remember how big that was?
Yep.
It was like nothing. Someone walking through the mist. I think it was the Gungans, and then bam. The pod. That was the first teaser that people online were sharing. Like, holy shit! First trailer. Remember that with QuickTime?
So
I do.
No,
you had a QuickTime for episode 2, but people were sharing with like QuickTime and embeds. There's no YouTube. You got to go to a website with an embed to watch it.
My friend Miles was talking online about how I think he said he was in like, I can't remember how old he was, 6th or 7th grade when that movie came out, and that that first teaser trailer got him excited, and he was like telling all of his friends how cool Jar Jar was going to be.
Oh boy!
I mean, because you don't
Jar Jar is a key to everything.
but you don't really have an idea of what's going to happen. You just kind of see those Gungans, and they're like, okay, that's cool. And then after the movie, he like got a bunch of shit in school for it.
So obviously, I was hugely excited.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed out on something. In the mid '90s, they started bringing the toys back with the Power of the Force line. So like everything was set up for this 4 years in advance. They did a great job. So I knew things were going to be weird. I had a feeling at the time. The teaser was great. The trailer came out like a few months before, whatever. It's spring of '99, and the first 20 seconds of the trailer are, "I will not bring a political action that will bring us to war." And they started talking about politics stuff in the trailer, trade stuff, and it's just like, the people are dying, Senator. We must act. I was like, this is kind of weird. It doesn't feel like Star Wars to me.
Right.
It's a little. They're not focusing on like the fantasy elements and this, the weird stuff. It was like people just talking to each other, talking heads.
Right.
And I thought that was a weird tone. But that's what the trilogy became. The prequels.
Yeah.
People sitting down on couches in rooms, CG rooms, talking to each other. That's what the trilogy mostly is.
Yeah.
With some action scenes thrown in. And that's why it doesn't feel kinetic or real. And that's the best thing I could say about the difference between the prequels. Even the new trilogy feels kinetic and real. People running around on real sets, and they try to get that feeling back. And this, it's like walk, stop, talk to each other about something. Continue on. Sit down on a couch, talk to each other. That's how these movies go. They're just not constructed with any energy. So,
or like when Padme and Anakin are talking, just stand there and look at each other blankly and, spit out this dialogue.
Yeah.
You got to get this out.
Mason, Kenobi were talking about, we must act quickly. Then they stop and like look at each other. And they don't with a CG background. Anyway, but this was the start, I think, of the hype fandom, geek fandom we know of today.
Sure.
20 years ago. This was before Lord of the Rings, right before Harry Potter, a couple years before Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, 2 or 3 years. Lord of the Rings was 2001. Harry Potter was 2001 as well. So this was the start, I think, of modern geek culture. When you think about, there's buzz, people are camping out for tickets. There's a video we can show, but we'll probably cut it for time. There's a video showing like the interactions. People were dressing up in the costumes, going to the theater. This didn't happen before this movie like this that we know of. I guess it probably happened a little bit with Return of the Jedi, but that was still in the time frame of these are the movies that are big. But this is 16 years after Return of the Jedi, and you have kids that never even seen that. They weren't alive when Star Wars came out, that are dressing up as characters or dressing up as young Anakin and going. They had the lightsabers. It just seemed like they hit upon a younger generation, but they got the kids that were kids in the 80s and 70s back as adults to see it. And so it was like this touchstone moment for geek culture that, for better or for worse, got us to where we are today. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I don't think people will be camping out for tickets anymore. It's kind of silly. People literally were intense to watch the first viewing. I saw my first viewing. I was so weirded out by the buzz as a huge star. I was weirded out by it. It bothered me to an extent. I didn't see it opening day. I saw it that Sunday, like in the middle of the day with a mostly empty theater, because everyone probably saw it Friday and Saturday. And the feeling I got afterwards was like, it wasn't even disappointment. It was just like numbness that this was the buildup that everyone had in their head for 10 years, 12 years since people thought about them making these movies. And it didn't feel right. It's one thing to say is it didn't feel right to me as, teenage Pat.
Yeah, no, it didn't. The movie felt
felt off.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing I can say about it. Say what you want about these newer films. They don't feel as off. You might disagree and say like, oh, they ruined Star Wars. But they feel like, at least they feel like Star Wars.
That's what I said after I saw The Last Jedi, finally, which took me forever. I was like, it was a fine movie. It did some weird stuff, but it felt like a Star Wars movie.
They feel like they're in the same universe.
So to me, like I said, as a person who's not like crazy into it, I like these newer Star Wars movies, I guess. I'm more likely to watch them again than I am the prequels, even though I don't really need to go back to either of them for any reason. Because at least, it feels like Star Wars.
The production feels similar. Yes. They're shot on film. There's practical sets.
Yeah.
There's less CG thrown in your face. 100% of it. Yeah, they have CG stuff, obviously, but it's set dressing. It's not the whole set.
Well,
that's the difference.
Because when you look at some of that behind the scenes stuff, they're doing
40-foot green screens behind them.
Yeah,
that's their sets on the prequels.
And green props,
yes.
And that's nearly all of it. I think they said there was very, very little that was actually shot on.
Well, episode 1 they shot in the deserts, so that kind of felt like, oh, this feels like Star Wars. I don't know if they went back to Tunisia or not to shoot, but it's like, oh, this feels like it, but then not 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I think as episode 2, they shot in Italy, the romantic subplot that sunk it for me. I was laughing at episode 2 in the theaters.
Oh, yeah.
I was out, at that point, I was annoyed and laughing at everything at that point. My friends going, shh. I just want to see like Yoda flip around like an idiot. And even that, I was like, this is ridiculous. I was out by then. I tapped out. I sold my Star Wars toy collection in my early 20s. I tapped out. Before video games. Pat was a Star Wars toy collector. Tapped out. I sold 95% of it.
Yeah, the second one. What is it? Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones.
Awful. just unwatchable.
And then episode 3, people are like, oh, episode 3 is not bad. Yeah, compared to the first 2, it's still not a great movie. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay, but honestly,
it doesn't make any sense, a lot of it. You don't get why Anakin turns against his friends and kills kids. There's no explanation for why he would kill kids. There still isn't. So to his mind, saving his wife is worth killing. Potentially saving his wife.
Right.
Is potentially saving his wife's life is worth killing kids? No. That's like, talk about Dragon, people getting pissed about Dragon Lady. There was nothing set down that he would, he killed the Raiders, though, in episode 2. Yeah, because they killed his mom.
Yeah.
There was revenge here. This was just, potentially you can teach me to bring, to save someone's life, I'll kill kids. No one, I think, bought that. It didn't make any sense at all. Anyway, so that's episode 1. And here we are at Star Wars. Maybe they should have left it alone, but we got to make money. We got to make money with entertainment.